Hey everyone, it's Ten Types, and today we're looking at a bunch of new cards, like a lot. And most of them aren't very good, but some are pretty interesting. And most of them are from these EX Starter Deck Generations things. They are these decks that feature two Pokemon, one of, I believe, no, they're not all legendaries, but a lot are legendaries and like iconic Pokemon. But first off, we have Eevee EX from Trastal Festival. This will be coming out internationally in Prismatic Evolution coming out January 17th internationally and in English, so that's something to look forward to. This will probably have these starter deck cards. The X's we'll take a look at, and the other cards in a moment, as well as the other cards here, and evolutions as well. So that is why we're getting this Eevee EX. Though there is a very good Eevee that we do need to mention, which is coming, I believe, in no, not Paradise Dragana. The next Surging Sparks. There we go. It's like, which is the right name? That's the English set, and that is the Surging Sparks. So we're going to get an Eevee there, which says pretty much it can evolve instantly if it's in the active, which is really good. And it is, it is here. Coming in, as I said, Surging Sparks, and it does only have 50 HP though. So it is vulnerable to Dragapult EX and various things, Dusclops. It's definitely going to be knocked out by some things you don't want to get knocked out by. It is a basic, only gives up one prize, unlike this EVEX, which we'll take a look at in a moment, which just its ability says it can evolve into any Pokemon that evolves into Eevee, and or any Pokemon EX that evolves from Eevee. So you cannot evolve your single prizers in from this Eevee. I at first thought you could, but you can't. And this means that if you want to evolve into the single prize Sylveon, which we're going to take a look at, which is actually kind of good, is you would need to be playing this Eevee. Or you could play some other Eevee. The other Eevees, there was one with 70. No, there were a few with 70, so you could play those. Let's just take a look at English. Yeah, there are a few Eevees with 70. I don't really know. Like Eevee is not a card that's played now, you know. But yeah, there are Eevees that can be played with like 70 HP. The one that's played is this one, I guess. Anyways, there are some Eevees, and there are evolutions in the standard format right now as well. There is a good chunk, but none of them are particularly good. There's the Stellar Sylveon EX coming out soon in English, which is going to become, or internationally, which is already out in Japan and has seen a little bit of play, not like a ton, but to get a gauge on how good it is, it's seen this much play in a few different decks. It's a pretty sketchy Pokemon. It has some like really difficult things about it to power up or to get good value out of, but it's not like a bad card. Certainly, it does have some solid upside as this disruptive card. But anyways, EVEX can evolve into those. It also can do for Fire, Water, Lightning 200. That is, of course, the types of the first evolutions, the Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon, as well as Glaceon as well. Glaceon will also be using Water Energy, although I don't know what the deal is going to be with the Evolution EXs, if they're going to be, regular evolutions, or if they're going to be in terms of their type, like attack costs, or if they will be the stellar cards, which then have like all these weird attack costs. So, anyways, EVEX, the attack's like pretty bad. It just does 200 for 3, which isn't completely terrible. 200 for 3 is okay, as long as it's like one type, but it's not. It's not one type. It is 3 types, and that's bad. But you do have this awesome ability. So if you're playing an Evolution EX box deck, which given this card, maybe that's what Pokemon wants us to do. And if it is, then you really want to be playing this EVEX. You kind of have to. It has one retreat as well. And of course, it is a Terra Pokemon being a Stellar Pokemon. So this means that you will now be able to go in and pair it with a Noctowl, Area Zero Underdepths. It's a basic as well. If the evolutions are Terra Pokemon, then this will also be a Terra. So you can use Noctowl even if you don't have the evolutions in play yet. So you can use Noctowl. If you have no Pokemon in play other than Noctowl, you can just bench an Eevee EX, and then you can use Noctowl, which is really nice if you're playing with cards like Dragapult EX, Charizard EX, or of course any other evolution Terra Pokemon. Then playing it with a Noctowl is kind of awkward, and people have mostly just been playing Noctowl with basic Pokemon, basic Terras, or basic Terras. So we've seen it with Regidraco. I guess it's not like super common in Rage. It's definitely played some. And then you're playing the Teal Sugarpon EX, and same thing with Raging Bull. And then you also have it in Trapghost EX decks with Dusknoir, as well as Palkia decks, which play the Trapicus EX, as well as a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX as well can be played, which is a card you will see pop up from time to time. Um, I think. Yeah, I couldn't find it, can't find it in this database, but it's definitely something you might end up seeing because it does have value with Noctowl. There are some others as well, but these are the ones the Terra Pokemon people have been playing with Noctowl so far, which are all basic. Looking at the Japanese tournament results, you can see it with something like Greninja EX, but what's this deck have? It might also have a yeah, it does have the Ogerpon and the Trapco, so we do see it there. And so if you want to play with something like Charizard EX, you could, but it does have issues. Anyway, so that's why EVEX helps, and it keeps Area Zero underdepths triggered more so that hopefully you won't ever have a time where you don't have a Terra in play with the stadium in play, so your Pokemon will generally stay in play. Of course, they could bump the stadium. But anyways, EVEX is definitely a really cool card. It's an EX that evolves into other EXs as well, which is something that is pretty unique as well, which is pretty cool. Then we have the EX starter deck generations, which is there's a starter deck for each, well, generation. So we got 9 of them, and each has 2 unique EXs. We got 18. I'm pretty sure they're all new. Um, is this like Pikachu EX new? I don't know. Um, what Pikachu EXs we have? We have this one. No, it looks like it is the same as this Pikachu EX. Like I don't remember. Oh, I guess all the new cards are listed here. No. So this Pikachu EX. What? Okay, so Limitless's translation is apparently not 100% accurate. It says it does 180 here, but oh no, this is a different Pikachu EX. But its stats are like exactly the same. Oh wait, no, the other one has free retreat. Never mind. This Pikachu EX seems like kind of bad. But anyways, it does 220 for Lightning Lane Colorless, 30 to itself. Not completely terrible. Pretty similar to the Miraidon EX in stats wise. Why did Pokemon print like 2 Pikachu EXs that are essentially the same? Like, I don't know. Anyways, then we have Snorlax EX with a whopping 260 HP on a basic, which is really nice. We have seen this before with a very good basic Pokemon, which is the Blood Luna EX, which is actually one of the best basic Pokemon in the game right now, in my opinion. Within the current metagame, it's not like you can't really take great advantage of the tankiness, and the attack is also like it's really solid, but it's not necessarily hitting the perfect number. I mean, it is pretty good in certain situations, but it's not like this card that is super good in every single deck. But anyway, Snorlax isn't very good at 180 for 3, or Flip 3 coins, 120 for each, heads for 4. That's averaging a really, really stunning 180 for 4. That's real bad. So this card obviously isn't very good. It is all colorless, which is like kind of nice. It does have full retreat, which is generally bad, but theoretically something could buff this to make it like good. Because we do see some things from time to time buff for retreat cards. I don't think there are any in standard. There might be that I'm just forgetting. But anyway, Snorlax EX definitely is not a very good card. And then we have this new Pinsir. Oh boy, yeah, nothing really to say about this. Which I believe these are new. As I don't know, like I'm pretty sure this Pinsir is, yeah, it looks like it's new. But obviously like it's not very special. So I might not necessarily recognize if it's new because if it's like really bad. But then we have Lugia EX here, which has 140 for 3. Oh, it's the only attack, and flip coin until you get tails. For each has discard energy from your opponent's active. If you flip double heads, it's like kind of good to be honest. If you flip one head, it's honestly kind of good as well. But half the time you're not flipping any heads, right? So ultimately this card is not good. Yeah. Then we have Tyranitar EX, a stage 2, and it has 340 HP, which is obviously very good. You can do 50 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. That's actually not that bad. That's obviously not that good either. But if you're able to accelerate a bunch of energies, then you could be doing a bunch of damage, right? So you could get like Baxcalibur and just stick like a bunch of water energies. And this is only 10 less damage multiplier than Chimpow EX, though that can have energy anywhere, and it's a basic, so certainly not that good, but not super bad. And you can do Darkness Colorless costs 150. Your opponent reveals their hand. Discard a card you find there. That's actually solid as well. This card isn't a card I expect to see meta play, but it is okay. It also does have that grass weakness, which isn't exactly great. It's not like super bad, but it's not that Pokemon you can consistently rely on to not be one-shotted because of TMS Sugar Pine EX being able to one-shot you. presumably, unless you're just doing crush for very small amounts of damage for just 50. But definitely a bit of an interesting card here. Nothing super spectacular, but it's okay. We have Slowpoke, we got Slowking, Forgive and Forget, 70 for 3. You may put up to 2 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. That's okay. When I said Lugia, I said you want to put 2 energies into the hand. By the way, I've looked at these cards already, but I've like, they're kind of bad, so I don't remember exactly what they do. But Slowking, this is solid. I mean, it's not great, right? You probably need a reversal. But with the reversal, you're going to be able to go ahead and potentially put your opponent back if they're playing Dragapult EX. That can get energy acceleration or a cheaper attack, which is essentially the same thing. And not in all situations, but in most situations, it's the same with Sparkling Crystal or Crispin. But with looking, if they don't have those cards available, which they often don't, they don't have them available all the time because they can only use them twice. Then you can use Slowking here and then theoretically slow them down and theoretically do this over and over. That's pretty niche. Most decks in the game are going to be being able to. I mean, really every deck in the game can power up its attacker in one turn, assuming they have like a solid board state, which this is not applying a lot of pressure. So they probably will have a pretty good board state. Also, it's going to get one-shotted by Dusknoir, which isn't good. One-shotted? I don't know if that's like a term you can use for an ability, but that is the term I'm using here. But it's like a really interesting card. Then we have the Larvitar and the Pupitar. Then we have Houndour and Houndoom, which says search for 2 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon and what you like, then shuffle your deck. Ultimately, this card obviously isn't very good, but this is a card that like fits pretty well into a format, like a more casual format, or like a less defined format, which is generally more casual as well. But whatever. Certainly more interesting than some of these other cards. Then we have Kyogre EX, and this one actually has like multiple lines of text, which is pretty crazy. First, Undulating Waves, which says 80, you may switch your opponent's active to the bench. They choose, that's not particularly good. 230 for 4 and discard 2. That's also not very good. Okay, never mind. This card isn't very good. Not completely terrible, but not particularly good either. Actually, it's pretty bad because the second attack is essentially just worse than Chimpow EX in the deck, which you'd be playing it in. The first attack also is very niche and not particularly good. Doesn't Well, I'd say it's niche, but like it's not. It's just not very good, right? It's not particularly. You could use Iron Bundle if you want to force your opponent's active to the bench, and that's not your attack, right? So yeah. Then we have Blaziken EX next. It says once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. I know there have been Blazikens like this in the past, and so that's probably why this card has this ability. Though I don't know about that for other cards, but this is pretty solid, right? It's not super good, but it's okay. And then for 200 Fire Colorless, or for Fire Colorless, it does 200 and can attack next turn. It does have 2 retreat as well. Ultimately, this ability is not very good, but it's not that bad either. In the current game, EXs aren't like, this Pokemon isn't necessarily surviving all the time, even if it's chilling on your bench. Your opponent will be able to often knock it out if they want to through like Dusknoir plus some attacker, or also maybe plus just through like Raging Bull EX. But certainly can survive as well. So setting this up as an engine in a deck that does need some extra support, could use an attacker which has value. It's an okay attacker. It powers itself up. Well, it powers up the 1 energy, so you can just attach from hand. It's an okay card, not super good, but it's okay. And it's kind of like the Quaquaval, which accelerates, I believe, from your hand a basic energy of any type. The card hasn't seen any play, but is a stage 2 that is a single prizer. Generally, if you want to support stage 2, I guess you want it to be a multi-prizer, so it has more HP. I don't know if that's actually true. I guess it probably depends a lot on the circumstances, but you do have the higher HP, because if your opponent's just like knocking out all your Blazikens all the time, then you're not really going to get anywhere, and eventually you'll just like lose. But I think this card does have minor potential in some of the sillier decks. You took a look at like an Annihilate, which is really sketchy, but it does need 2 energy. Let's try to get the second one on. Again, not great, but it's okay. We have Torchic and Combuskin. We have Tropius. Discard, draw 3. That just ain't all that. We got Dialga EX and Lucario EX, which can do 20 and draw 1. Or for 3 colors, it does 100, 20 more for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. This is okay. Minimum is really hitting is 160 for 3 metal. It's not that good, but maybe could get teched in like somewhere. I don't really know what Metag's going to look like post Dialga V-Star's rotation, but I don't expect it to just disappear. Matang has seen play. What does it seem play with? Obviously, it's seen play with Dialga. Yeah, okay, that looks like about it. What about in Japan? Okay, someone played it. Oh, but that's still a Dialga deck. Um, oh, okay, get out of here. Yeah, what? This is literally a Dialga without Matang. It's still Matang. Okay, looks like Matang. Oh, someone played it with Scyther Barrel or Scizor Barrel. But one singular person played Matang without Dialga. And this deck doesn't. Oh, this is Scizor EX. Yeah, so you could do Scizor EX, which was like kind of interesting, but it seems kind of bad. And I don't really know what metal Pokemon are good right now. I mean, Dialga's like solid, and I mean, I guess Jirachi's like kind of also good. It's not that good, but it's okay. Oh, Goldengo's good too, but again, does not want Matang. But Dialga EX, it has like some mediocre attacks. It's probably not getting put in Matang anyway. Mediocre, like a underwhelming Pokemon within an underwhelming deck, probably not gonna be very good, but whatever. Then we do have Lucario EX, 50 for 1 or 100 for 2, and then does 100 more next turn if it's able to survive. There are ways to give this some more HP or reduce damage it takes, which are like okay, though they're not great. Ultimately, hitting 200 for 2 is good, but you do need to attack for a turn. So ultimately, this card probably isn't going to be any good. There is some like, if it just said 200 for 2, it would be okay. It'd be a pretty solid Pokemon, nothing absolutely insane, but not bad either. But obviously, you're not hitting that in the early game. Admittedly, hitting Fighting Weakness is pretty good. It's arguably the best weakness. I saw a comment that was like, it just hits a lot of great Pokemon from weakness. Rotom V has an EX. Um, there are others that there are the like lightning Pokemon, and then there's a good chunk of Pokemon. We'll just see so much play right now. Let's find them. Week 2 fighting, standard and competitive, and we have Veznipta EX, Tropical EX as well, Iron Thorns EX, Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, Iron Hands EX, right? Yeah, any of the lightning Pokemon, you can ride on EX as well, and let's see. I guess like Arceus, V-Star, Zoroark, V-Star. Wait, no, they'll be rotated by the time this comes out. So those don't matter. Rotom V as well, but that doesn't really matter. Um, so ultimately it's a solid type tip for weakness. Oh, but you're not one-shotting Veznipity EX. That's kind of bad. It's not that hard to do 10 extra damage, but it's not literally free either, right? You do need to put some effort into it to be able to do that extra damage. Lucario EX ultimately probably not going to be really able to do much of anything, unfortunately. Just a little bit short. Yeah, coming up a little bit short. Then we have Bronzong here, which says all your Pokemon take 10 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon after weakness and resistance. This is just like barely any damage. Like, theoretically, if your opponent's playing something very slow, like Bana EX or Dust, or not Dust, or the Venomoth, wait, probably without Frostmoth then, because Frostmoth will just eat away your Pokemon anyways. But if they're playing something that's doing almost no damage with its attack, then this does have some pretty solid value. And there are a few decks like that around, but there aren't that many decks like that around. This also has 3 Retreat, which is definitely a Pokemon that'll get gusted up and get stuck. So, Bronzong, I don't think there are really any good Bronzongs. I mean, there's like a Metal Bronzong, which is okay. But yeah, that's about it. Bronzong, there's the Heat-Proof Bronzong as well, which is an okay card, but not a particularly good card here. So, this Bronzong, unfortunately, just not enough. Then we got Reshiram EX. And this card, it does 40 for 1 and 200 for 3. There was the Pikachu EX, which was kind of similar, but ultimately this card isn't particularly good. I don't know exactly what the Armouge will deck like box will be doing. I don't know if it's going to be doing much of anything post rotation without Magma Basin. Like that card's really important to the deck. Excuse me, but you have some options, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what they are. You have Melon. You have like some like solid attackers still, but ultimately I don't know what's gonna happen with that. But Reshiram could like this isn't unfortunately really good enough to slot into something like that because of the other options you have. When you have Amoonguss EX, Amoonguss EX here can do. It's like why did Amoonguss get the EX? There are all these like iconic Pokemon. Like I know it's like kind of funny, but it's only funny in English, right? Like it's not funny in other languages. So, anyways, Amoonguss here 30 in sleep for 1 grass, which is actually like better than some of these other attacks. I guess. I'd rather do that than 50 for 1, but obviously not that good. Then you have Mushroom Swing, which is 100, or an equivalent 180 for 2. Yeah, I was saying the Lucario doing 200 every turn isn't really good enough, and no, it might be, but this Amoonguss isn't also going to be particularly good. Um, then we have this Lilligant. This Lilligant's actually really interesting. I said stage one, there's the ability Sunny Day, which I believe does stack. Your Grass Pokemon and Fire Pokemon's attacks do. Grass and Fire Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And wait a second, I want to make sure. I think this is like your Grass Pokemon. Like if you have a what's a fire Pokemon or a grass Pokemon that's useful? Like Entei. You have Entei. No, no. What's a Pokemon that survives? Gouging Fire EX. Gouging Fire EX will be hitting 20 more damage. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure the Pokemon doesn't need to be both grass and fire, which is kind of what the wording implies, but I'm pretty sure that's not what it's saying. Believe it or not, there are multiple cards that actually fit that description, which are there's Scovillains. There is the Scovillain EX that's not out yet, which is Grass and Fire. And there is the Scovillain from Obsidian Flames, which also fits that description. But I'm pretty sure that's not what it's saying. I'm pretty sure those cards won't get double damage increase, but this is pretty solid. 20 extra damage can be stacking on stage one, which means it will be, especially if it's grass, bug catching set searchable. Bug catching set's a pretty solid item in the game right now if you're able to make good use of it. No deck's able to make great use of it. That's like a good deck. I mean, I think the Weird Eevee deck is an okay deck, but I don't even play bug catching set in that deck. So, that like plays a lot of grass energy and a good few grass Pokemon, but what plays for? This little get line I think will be pretty okay. I mean, it seems solid. Increasing the amount of damage you're doing by 20 is nice. That's a good amount of damage to increase, and it can be up to 40 if you, it can be up to 80 if you play four of them, but 40 I feel like feels something pretty obtainable in decks, especially with the bigger bench space. It's not like that big of an issue. So this Lilligant, I really think this Lilligant's a solid card. Not insane, but it is one that could end up seeing play and could be pushing certain decks over the edge to make them really solid decks. And we got the Fungus, and then we got Xerneas EX, which does 50 for 2, or 120 for 3, or 220 if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX. Ultimately, I don't know what's going to happen with Gardevoir EX post rotation, and I don't actually know what Pokemon you'd play if you're looking for like I don't know. I mean, right now it plays like the Drifloon and the Screamtail and some other Pokemon, but the main attackers for damage output are Drifloon and Screamtail. So the Xerneas EX is like a pretty straightforward, solid Pokemon that you could play in Gardevoir, and it's not completely terrible. So that's solid. This is actually like a solid Pokemon attacker. Again, nothing insane. We looked at the Pikachu EX and some other EXs kind of like it, and it's not insane, but it's okay. And then we have Northern EX, which is 50 hit and run, so it switches to the bench, which is okay, and it can do for 3 colors, 120, 30 to itself. On a stage 1 here, this just unfortunately isn't enough. Then we have Sylveon with the classic ability Safeguard, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. And yeah, this is not bad at all. Preventing damage from Pokemon EX is nice. This is not evolved from the Eevee EX because this is not an EX, I'm pretty sure, but it does have pretty solid value within a deck like that because you're going to play the basic regular single price Eevee, and then you can evolve into this and be a solid wall. And your actual attack here, Magical Shot for Psychic Colorless Colorless, it does 100 damage, and this seems okay. This is it's strong the Mimikyu. It does not get knocked out by Mew EX, which is kind of nice, and it's a solid card. The Sylveon seems like a card that it's not a bad card. I think this is a card that might end up seeing play in the Evolution box deck. We don't know like really any of the cards. There's the Sylveon EX, which we have seen so far, which is not the Sylveon EX coming in this set, but well, it is coming in. It's coming in the upcoming set, Surging Sparks, releasing very soon. But yeah, the Sylveon seems pretty good. Not like insane, but solid. Then we do have Tapu Koko EX. This says it has free retreat and it does 60 to 20 more for each of your bench Pokemon. And with Area 0 Under Depths, you can have 8 bench Pokemon. That can be doing 220 damage for just 2 energy on a basic with free retreat. This card is not bad at all. And the current Terra EX played in Miraidon decks, Lightning basic decks, is Mewtwo EX. That card is not very good because it doesn't do anything, but the new one being played is Pikachu EX. I'm going to make a video talking about some of the cards that are going to be played or that are being played in Japan that aren't out yet internationally, the Surging Spikes cards or the Supercharged Breaker cards to be more specific. And yeah, Pikachu EX is being play and adding a nice little layer of depth to that deck. It's not super strong, but it's solid. And this is another piece which adds a layer. It's not super strong, but it can be a replacement to the Raikou V in some senses as a 2 energy attacker, which currently, well, the deck has, but the deck will lack with the rotation of Raikou V. Then we have Mimikyu EX. This card, for a sec, Mysterious Hand says choose two of your opponent's Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on each of them. That's like so weak. That seems really bad. I guess it's really good against Galvantula EX before they evolve. We have Ghost Trip for Psychic Colorless. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. So that's also not very good. Sorry for the pauses. Yeah, my voice is not 100%. But yeah, obviously not very good here. Pretty disappointing. We got another Mimikyu EX. I believe Mimikyu got the first EX, if I'm not mistaken. Um, where? Oh yeah, it was a promo. So yeah, this card was not very good. They're better than this Mimikyu EX, I think. This one's obviously pretty terrible. Um, then we have, excuse me, we have this Oricorio, which can search for energy. No, it searches for 2 basic Pokemon, and then you put them onto your bench and shuffle your deck. Pretty straightforward stuff. If Zacian EX, this can do 210 for Metal Carlos. This is kind of okay. It's better than the Dialga EX, so scratch everything I said about the Dialga EX, apply it to the Zacian EX. I mean, there was some like moderate value in the Dialga EX. Theoretically, it can hit more than this, and its first attack does trade your cards and sets you up. So a little bit of value in that card, but not that much. And then Alchemy EX here. Once during your turn, heal 30 damage from one of your Pokemon, and Whip Shot, which does 180 or no 160 for 3. This is ultimately pretty comparable to the. There's an EX that does this. No, Milotic. No, it's not Milotic EX. What is the EX? Altaria EX, which is pretty similar, which heals 20 from each of your Pokemon. Ultimately, this is not a terrible ability though. The Altaria EX is pretty bad. It does have a usable attack in Regidrago, but that's not really what we're talking about here. So, and when I say usable, it's pretty niche. I thought I did see some competitive play IRL in Lumilus's database, not in Japan, within the international tournaments. But anyways, you can heal 20 from each is probably better than healing 30 from one. I don't know. They are different though. Um, Ultimately, Alchemy EX, if you do want to make a deck focused on healing, this could be a solid card to include, or even build around. If you have foils in play, you can be healing 120. You can put some other Pokemon in play to heal more. And I mean, you could play for Alchemy EX for Altaria EX, be healing 200 every single turn and be attacking with, would need to be a Terra. So, um, it's like a good Terra, like Charizard EX. You just got like Charizard EX out here swinging for a good chunk of damage every turn. Or maybe pair it with a Pikachu EX and you heal off. There we go. That's the deck idea. You have Pikachu EX, you have Area Zero Under Depths, you have 4 Alchemy EXs, and you have I guess you'd also need 4 Altaria EXs, and then you just go ahead and I don't know, there are some other healing EXs as well, or healing Pokemon. There's I don't know. I don't really know what there is. There is a Radiant Starter, but that'll be rotated. But anyways, you have Pikachu EX, you just have like absurd amounts of healing, and there you go. You got your Pikachu EX heal loop deck. You're like literally invincible. Your opponent's just like crying. Um, yeah, that's it. And then we have Scovet, we got Greedent, which is 60 and draws 2 for 2. Next up, we have Koraidon EX. This does 100. If any of your bench Pokemon have damage on them, this does 120 more damage. 120 for 3. It's okay. It's not super terrible. This one is like, I don't know, fighting is definitely a pretty bad type right now. If we look at the, where did I search up? There we go. Type, I think. There we go. The standard fighting cards that are competitive is in the state base, and most of these cards are kind of bad. So, I mean, there's some okay ones. Like Cloth is probably top 10 fighting Pokemon right now, and it's not a very good card. It's not like super terrible, but it's also not particularly good. So this card could end up seeing play if you are looking for something maybe to pair with um, the other Koraidon EX. Where is it? Surely it like has to be here. Maybe it's not. Okay, well that is awkward. Because you could play with Ting Lu. I feel like Tinglu did see play. Like Tinglu was definitely a Pokemon that saw some play, and it was paired with Crydon EX. So, oh, it is here. Never mind. I found it. It's with an alternate. Yeah. So you compare it with this Crydon EX to accelerate to this Crydon EX. Well, this one also does 220 though, right? So like at that point, like what are you doing? So ultimately, this card in the EX isn't particularly good, so probably won't end up seeing play. Again, a very generic 220 HP attack or 220 damage output attacker. If you are looking for something like this, it might be the attack you need, but it's probably not. Then we have Paldean Clodsire, which does 60 and says your opponent's active is poisoned and can't retreat. That is something. Then you can do 220 for 3, which isn't what you're looking for on a stage 1. It's what you're looking for in a basic. You do have 280 HP, which is, that's pretty high, right? But that's about it. When you have this Toad School, which has the ability, as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 colors less. Why does it need to be on your bench, right? This Pokemon can't get stuck. I feel like that's like kind of annoying. Like Pokemon getting stuck isn't a very fun thing in general. It does allow for some comebacks, but usually they don't work. Usually your opponent just like retreats or something. So ultimately, this Toad School is okay though. There's a card like that. I think it's Sneasler. Um, it's the Hisuian Sneasler, which is essentially the same card. It does have one retreat, which is better than two retreat. This one does have more HP and um, I don't know which attack's better, but whatever. That doesn't really matter. And this Toadstool is like kind of okay, obviously giving free retreat to a lot of your Pokemon, but it can get stuck. Is it good? There's some value. It's not a terrible card, and Toadstool is definitely a solid line. Because you have the Toadstool EX, which does give you protection from effects of attacks with Pokemon with energy attack attached to them. Then you also have the single prize Toadstool. Not this one, but this one, which is cards in your opponent's discard pile, can't be put into their hand by an effect of your opponent's abilities or trainer cards. This is particularly good against a deck like Chimpaui X. It's pretty good against the Ogerpon EX decks, the Team Ice Ogerpon EX decks as well. And it has a few different use cases, which are pretty solid. So it's not a bad tech card either. So you can put in a bunch of different tech cards, which is okay. Squawkabilly as well, and Squawkabilly is not very good. Lastly, we got ourselves a bunch of Professor's Research Arts, which are, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about these. They're fine. You got whatever going on here. The one weird thing is, I guess it's not weird, but like Professor Sycamore and Professor Juniper, which we've already gotten research to Juniper, right? Um, how many researchers have we gotten? We got a good few. We did get Juniper, we got Magnolia, we got Turo, who's not getting a supporter card here. We just got Sada, and then Rowan. Rowan got like a regular one, right? Or did he not? I don't. Oh, no, yeah, Rowan here. So and then Oak as well. So. Oh, and then we also got Willow, but that doesn't really count, does it? So this is the first time for Elm, Birch, Sycamore, who's Professor Sycamore, was a supporter that was like the same as Research. And then oh no, and then Professor Kukui, that's the one that's kind of weird because there is a Professor Kukui card, um, which is just a different supporter. It draws 2, and then you do 20 more damage. It was like a solid supporter, and a kind of interesting one. And so the support is probably never coming back. Any Professor Kukui fans out there, Professor Kukui will only be in the TCG as this research card, or maybe as like Professor Kukui's something. Like we got Professor Sada's Vitality and Professor Tur's scenario, but and we got Oak's something, right, as well. Yeah, we got set up. Oh, and then yeah, Professor Oak's new theory. That was pretty good. And then Professor Oak's visit, Professor Oak's research. What even is this? Um, anyway, so yeah, we're not getting a regular Professor Kui card again, presumably ever. I don't think Pokemon will want to make like a completely different one. I mean, we're not getting a Professor Juniper card or Professor Sycamore card again either, but that's just something to keep in mind to understand going forward. This is probably what we're going to see. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and listening to me struggle to talk about these cards that we're getting at the beginning of next year, which is going to be exciting. The set will have a lot of EXs, and they aren't that good, to be honest. Most of these cards aren't particularly interesting. There were a few interesting ones, though. The most interesting ones were probably the Toad School is like moderately interesting. The Alchemy EX, that like combo is kind of funny. And then the Sylveon. And Apcoco EX as well. There were some like kind of cool cards here. And then the Blaziken EX as well. Not bad. Um, And the Lillian also seems pretty solid, assuming they don't need to be both grass and fire, which I'm pretty sure that doesn't really make a lot of sense if that's what it had to be. And there were, the other EXs might end up seeing play in ways I don't expect. But the Sylveon, it definitely seems like the star of the show here, which will ultimately become a solid piece in a solid deck. Maybe. We don't know really any of the other pieces in the deck. We know the basic and the other basic that also evolves in the same evolutions, but not the same exact evolutions. They can also be ability locked and can't evolve anymore. But I'm really excited to play with these cards. I'm really excited to see more cards. This is a lot of not super great cards, but we do see these come around. And Pokemon needs to print cards, and some are really cool in other formats as well, I'm assuming. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, joining the channel, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.